Welcome to High Road Conversations, where we explore what it really means to lead with integrity, purpose, and impact, especially when the easier path is right in front of you. I'm Zach Parker, Navy veteran, leadership coach, and lifelong student of what it means to take the high road when it isn't easy. In this podcast, we dig into the moments that test leaders, the decisions that define them, and the lessons that keep them grounded as they grow. Because leadership isn't about perfection. It's about choosing the high road, one decision at a time. I'm joined today by my co-host, Evangeline Pascasio, transformational leadership coach, and someone deeply committed to helping people grow through meaningful connection. Together, we sit down with leaders, builders, and thinkers who are choosing to lead differently, not through power or position, but through principle. Today, we'll be chatting with Michael J. Pope Jr., international speaker, leadership coach, and productivity strategist. Michael is the creator of the Do-Er framework, helping high achievers break free from hesitation and take bold, consistent action without burning out. With nearly 3 decades in technology and certifications from Maxwell Leadership and the Neuroencoding Institute, he blends mindset and execution in a practical way. In this conversation, we explore confidence, momentum, disciplined action, and what it really takes to move from intention to impact. Before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you stay connected to future conversations. And as you watch, let us know your biggest takeaway in the comments. Please welcome Michael J. Pope, an international speaker, leadership coach, and productivity strategist who helps high achievers break free from hesitation and take bold, consistent action. As the creator of the Do-Er framework, Michael equips leaders with practical tools to build confidence, momentum, and meaningful results. His message is clear and energizing. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start taking action and create lasting impact. So, welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Zach, for having me on the show.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Thank you, Michael. We are so excited. We're so thankful that you're here. We know that we are going to learn so much from you. Our viewers are going to be so thankful that we invited you. So let's get started.
All right.
You want to introduce yourself aside from the introduction that Zach just gave us
Yeah,
in a sentence. Give us a little background of what's not written.
absolutely. So, greetings, everyone. Michael J. Pope Jr., as Zach just mentioned, located in the Fairfield, Ohio area, which is outside of Cincinnati. Maxwell Leadership certified speaker, trainer, coach since 2019. Also, a neuroencoding specialist since 2021. Toastmasters DTM. And fun fact about me, my wife and I have 3 sons who are all black belts in karate. And I used to be terrified of public speaking many, many years ago. That's a little bit about me.
Nice.
I'm
How'd you get
glad,
over the, sorry, go ahead, Evangeline.
I'm glad you mentioned that so that some of us, public speaking is one of the most feared thing, right? Some people fear public speaking more than that. So I'm glad you mentioned that for those that are thinking they want to do this. So that's a great start. Go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to ask you, Michael, how did you get over the fear of public speaking? Because that was something that I was dealing with in my younger years as well.
Yeah, so Zach, great question. So for me, I joined Toastmasters back in 2003. And I'll never forget that first speech of how nervous I was and how I really wanted to make up any excuse not to have to get up there and speak. Even though it was a room for of maybe 10, 12 people, I was absolutely terrified, shaking, and I remember grabbing my notes that day, and I was like, "Hello, my name is Michael." I mean, those 4 minutes felt like 4 hours. However,
Wow.
I'm relieved that I did it, and thankfully, I had a mentor who guided me along the way of learning how to communicate and really learning to embrace the educational process involved with being a speaker. And so she helped me through that. And then obviously I fell in love with speaking. I love speaking now.
Nice. Yeah, I had a similar experience. when I was in the Navy, I was an intelligence analyst, and so I was a lot of the job that I had to do was to speak in front of groups of people. And one of the one of my lieutenants one day he just came up and took my notes away from me, which I relied upon to do anything. He was like, "Don't worry about it. You got this. You got this." And I said, "Okay." And I got up there. It was the worst presentation ever. I didn't know anything that I was talking about, but from that day on, I was never afraid again.
Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah, I hear in the Navy that if you go there and you can't swim, they're going to push you in. So I guess you got pushed in, Zach.
Yep, sink or swim.
Thank you for sharing your vulnerability, right? Being vulnerable and sharing those experiences. It was there a time in your life where you decided, I really want to be a speaker? What was that point where, some of us can start on a career and then after many years, 30, 40 years, we realize, I want to do something else. What was that point for you, Michael?
I think for me, because I grew up as a natural introvert with a low self-image, I dove into the world of personal development in my early 20s. I started reading personal development books and listening to audio cassette tapes and DVDs and VHSs and all that type of stuff, right, back in the day. And I remember listening to an audio program from Brian Tracy talking about if you want to have more confidence, work on your communication skills, and he recommended Toastmasters. And then once I overcame my fear of public speaking, I thought back how I've had so many people influence me with the spoken word from listening to like these motivational speakers and these inspirational leaders. And I was like, I want to be able to do that myself, be able to truly impact people. Because my background is in software development. So as a software developer, I can make a small impact writing code and all that. However, speaking in front of an audience from stage, whether it's one-on-one or one to 10,000 or whatever, you can make a amazing impact. And so that's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah, having that force multiplying effect where you can not just impact one person or maybe even a handful of people, but having the ability to get a message out to hundreds of people that then take that message and carry it forward. That's pretty amazing. I,
Yes,
s- I see you've got on your bookshelf back there. It looks like, is that Les Brown?
it is. It is. I've had
Yeah.
an opportunity to share the stage with Les Brown 3 times now.
Oh man, I bet that was awesome. What was that like?
It was absolutely amazing. I grew up hearing Les Brown as one of the people who impacted me. He was probably one of the first non-preachers who was a black speaker that I saw on television and other programs years ago when I was younger. And so meeting Les was like for the first time it was like a dream come true. I was in that fanboy mode the first time I met him. He's very humble and down to earth. Thankfully, the last time, so I shared the stage with him back in Atlanta this past, I think it was April or May of last year. And at that point, it felt more like a friend. Like Les actually spoke to me first. Like he was walking by and he didn't say my name, but he kind of greeted me first. And it felt really good. Like feeling like I was obviously he's still on a way higher level than I am right now, but just felt like it was still on a friendly type of level,
Hmm.
with a mutual respect. So it was cool. 'Cause he's a great guy. 80 plus years old now, but still sharp, amazing storyteller, amazing human being.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to him. I see also on your bookshelf back there, you've got a book that looks like it was written by you. Is that called
Yes,
Doers?
yes. Doers win the day. Yes, yes, Zach.
Yeah.
Yes, I released that book this past June, sold over 300 copies worldwide. Yeah, and it's I took one of my keynotes and turned it into a book just to be able to create a greater impact.
Nice. What can you tell us about, like, do we have
Mhm.
to buy it to know what's in it?
Yeah, you definitely should buy it. But I'll tell you what it does is it breaks down a lot of the things that holds people back from really reaching their highest potential.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I call it hesitation. So for me growing up, I hesitated and I didn't realize it at the time, but hesitation has cost me a lot. right? It's cost me money, it's cost me time, it's cost me opportunities that I can never get back. So in this book, I go through talking about 10 kind of mistakes that people make around hesitation that's stopping them. As an example, one is the myth of multitasking. So a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm great at multitasking," and they'll try to do that, not realizing that really you can only focus on one thing at a time. So even if you're trying to multitask, really you're just doing one thing here and you're doing one thing there, but in most cases it ends up costing you more time and taking you longer, and the quality isn't the same. And so I kind of talk
Mhm.
about that in the book. Another thing that stops people is waiting for the right time or the perfect moment. Like I run into a lot of speakers and coaches who are like that, right? They won't start marketing their coaching program or their offer because they're like, oh, it's not perfect yet, or my website's not perfect yet, so I can't tell anybody about it, or my speech isn't perfect yet, so I can't go out and apply for speaking opportunities. And they're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And so I talk about the cost of that as well.
Mm.
And give you strategies, of course, to break free from that, to be what I call a doer.
I
Awesome.
love that, Michael. Even without reading the book, while we were preparing for this, I already have that question for you. So you mentioned hesitation. My question was, or is, what would you tell somebody who really is talented like you? You have so many gifts, so many talents. What would you tell that one person who is hesitating on really taking action and doing the thing that they know best how to do?
Yeah. So what I tell them is this: sometimes starting is enough.
Mhm.
And start is an acrostic. So start is smile, right? So I'll tell them, hey, just put a big smile on your face. Take 2 deep breaths. That's the T. T is take 2 deep breaths. So they'll take 2 deep breaths in. Then A in start is all about action. So act on one thing that you can do that you have complete control over that's going to move you in that right direction. So it could be like, let's say it's a coach who's struggling to hesitate to market himself, right? It could be sending an email. It could be dialing a phone number or making a call. Some action that you can take. Okay.
Mhm.
The R in start is all about rewarding the action. So we need to reward ourselves. A lot of times we wait for something massive to happen, right? We sign a big deal and then we start celebrating. Well, what I teach, even in the book, about those small celebrations. So learning how to reward yourself for taking the action, which is one thing you have control over, right? We don't have control whether they say yes or no. We do have control of the action that we take. So reward yourself for that action. And then the last T is take the next step, right? So you're just starting that process of taking those small micro steps, right? One step here, constantly rewarding yourself, and it's going to get that momentum going.
Yeah.
Awesome. I got so much from that, Zach. What about you?
Yeah, I love it. Anytime you can give something that is memorable in order to, you know, facilitate the learning of some lesson, that's going to be a very powerful thing, right? People can take it and they can say, "Oh yeah, I know." It's just like the whole SMART objectives or the SMART goals things.
Hmm.
I mean, that's been around for 40 years. I don't know. So yeah, I love Start. That sounds like a fantastic, and it's motivational in itself, right? So what should I do? You should start.
That's right. You
Absolutely.
start and then really be a doer, right? So doer is that's another acrostic. So the D in doer stands for discipline. O is
Mm.
one thing, E eliminate excuses, and R is responsibility. And so the responsibility is your attitude and your actions, things you have control over. So
Nice.
that's
I
what being
love
a doer
that.
is.
I love that. That alone is is gold, Michael. Thank you for sharing. And
You're
I'm
welcome.
sure our audience have a lot of questions for you if they can be here with you, right? So I
Love it.
love when you, especially rewarding. I think as human beings, we were conditioned to do, right? Do more. But then we forget to give ourselves grace and
Hmm.
kindness. We can be so kind and so helpful to other people, but sometimes we don't do that to ourselves. So I
That's so
love that you
true.
mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is,
Zach,
like I like to tell people is, think about the way you would treat a little child, right? When you see a baby start crawling for the first time, you applaud every step, right? Even if they fall over, you're applauding it. The first time they feed themselves, you're applauding it. We need to do the same with ourselves. When we're taking those baby steps, celebrate it.
I
I,
love
I
it.
wonder how much of that comes from your background in software development, because that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years as well. I was not a programmer. I was a agile coach, product owner,
Oh, cool.
scrum master. So, but a lot of that is kind of embedded within the software development community, right? It's like we're not gonna we're not gonna wait until the very end to celebrate everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that might be 3 years away.
And we realize that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
I know my early years of software development, I would pour my heart into the code, making it perfect as best I could. And then what happens? Zach knows, right? The next release happens, the next feature, whatever, right? So it's constantly changing. Any software product you have, app or whatever, is constantly being updated. And that's
Mhm.
how everything is that we do. And as John
True.
Maxwell says, you're never great the first time. So that's why we just got to do it, learn from it, right? And just keep improving it.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little personal aside here. My wife is Ukrainian, and my older son is 12 years old. He apparently started learning Ukrainian over the last week. And I asked him this morning to say something for me, and he said, "I don't know anything." And I said, "What do you mean you don't know anything?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know how to say anything." And I said, "Well, the only way you get better at saying things is to say them."
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you have to engage in the conversation if you want to improve your ability to have a conversation.
And
So,
he probably knows a few words, right?
oh, he does. Yeah, yeah, for sure he does. And I'm impressed that he's taken it on himself, to do this. And because my wife speaks, she's able to kind of guide him a little bit. Where if it was me, I'd just be like, I don't think that's how you say it. But
Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that,
so
Zach.
uh Michael, so I'm looking at the show notes here,
Okay.
and one of the things that you mentioned was a failure that you're grateful for now, which is speaking or not speaking at your grandfather Joe's funeral.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this happened in 1994. I think I was 20 years old, and I was at my grandfather's funeral sitting on the front row. And just a little backstory, my grandfather was one of my heroes.
Mhm.
He was like a father figure for me when I really needed one, mentor in my life. And even though he had a lot of health challenges, he never let that show. Like my grandfather was a double amputee, so below the knees, both his
Wow.
legs were cut off, and he had heavy prosthetics that he wore on a regular basis. But he always had an amazing attitude about it. And even this happened when I was 8 years old, and even as I grew into a teenager and a young adult, I still spent a lot of time with my grandfather learning from him. I mean, he would take me places. I was spending the night over his house. And that moment when I was sitting at his funeral and they had an open invitation, they said, "Hey, if anyone wants to come and share some remarks about Joe, come on up." And in my heart, I really wanted to go up and share with the family and friends that were there about the type of man that my grandfather was to me. However, as I sat there, tears in my eyes, I let fear keep me seated, right? Fear of, oh, you're not a professional speaker. What if they don't like what you say? What if people laugh? Like all types of little what ifs that I was telling myself as I sat in that seat. And the regret, and then I heard other people come up and speak and whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to mention that. Right. So that really made the regret that much worse. And then years later, whenever I would think about, I would think about my grandfather, and I was thinking, well, man, I wish I had had the confidence to speak up. And that's what eventually led me to Toastmasters and really working on personal development, because I never wanted to have that feeling again. And the reason why I say it's probably one of my greatest blessings now is because it forced me to grow into the speaker that I am now. And I've had the opportunity to talk about my grandfather on so many different platforms. So way more than the 100 or so people who that was at the talked about my grandfather in front of thousands. And so that's why I say it's a blessing of mine.
That's awesome.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Michael.
You're
That's so
welcome.
special to me too, because I grew up with my grandmother. And when I'm asked what inspired me the most or who inspired me the most, it's her belief in me when
Mm,
I felt like nobody else did. When she believed that I can finish college, I was the first one in the
it's
family to
important.
finish. Yes. So it's very important that you have that, really. So thanks for sharing that. Um, we are so impressed, like me especially. You have your background, which is totally almost separate, from what you're doing right now, speaking in front of people. You could have continued with what you're doing and choose to not be in front of people, but you went through all that training, personal development, and all the necessary steps, taking action. So you really are an example of, walking the talk, right?
You got to be a
Doing,
doer.
being a doer. That's such a powerful, inspiration and encouragement, especially for the young people, which you're still one of them because you look like you're in your 20s still. That's one secret you might want to share with us. What keeps you so enthusiastic and so empowered, and even balancing your role as a husband, as a father? Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit of your secret on that.
Yeah, so I'm 51. I'll be 52 in April this year. And for me, I think I stay young because I'm constantly learning, right? I'm a continuous learner, but then also I just have such a positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been blessed, and I love helping other people as well. So that's part of that brings me joy, spending time with family. And I know that even in being in my early 50s, that I have a lot of life ahead of me, a lot of impact that I can make ahead of me. And I have great mentors in my life, and like people like the gentleman in the middle between Les and I, Joseph McClendon III here. He's 72 years young, full of energy, and he's got one of the biggest smiles you'll ever see on someone. And he'll tell you, it's like it starts here, right? If you keep your mind positive and sharp, I mean, you'll look younger than what you are, right? It's like you'll that energy would just flow out of you. There's no reason to, like, I've seen some people who are like in their 40s, and they look older than me and sound older than me because they're not optimistic. And I think
Mhm.
because I'm very optimistic about the future, that it brings me joy, and I get excited about every single day that I have, that I knowing that I can go make an impact somewhere.
That's awesome. So when you are, uh, I guess, what is the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? What's your morning routine look like?
Yeah, so for me, now I'm not a morning riser. I'll tell you that. I wish I was, but I'm not. Right. So
You're not alone.
yeah. So for me, it's probably like rolling over, turn the alarm off, and my wife's the early riser, so she'll end up calling me on the phone, "Hey, get up and go get the kids up or whatever for breakfast." But one of the things that I do, as far as planning my day, is I learned this a while back. Like the best way for me to win every single day, it happens the night before. So it's planning, or at least thinking about, okay, what what are tomorrow's wins going to look like? And just having an idea. So, and I sleep on that. Okay, these are the things that I need to accomplish tomorrow. and I'll sleep on it. So then when I wake up, I have those fresh ideas and just excitement about, oh yeah, today I get to, right, today I get to be on this show here with Zach and Evangeline. Today I get to teach in the mentorship for the Maxwell team, or I get to do this, right? So, but I'm thinking about just some of the fun things I'm going to be doing for the day, and it just keeps me focused and productive.
Have
Love
you read the book Mind Hacking by Sir John Hargrave?
I have not. I have not. I've heard of it, but I haven't read that book.
You would appreciate that book, I think. He talks about how your brain is essentially like a computer, and all the things, all the habits that you have are just programs that have been installed.
Mhm.
And, this is one of the things that he does, what you're talking about is like priming your brain to think about, the things that you need to do, what are the things you need to accomplish, and then you sleep on it. And it's, I think you'd like that book
Yeah, I have to
for
check
sure.
it out. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're right. I mean, especially having the background in software development, that's kind of how I'm wired anyway, though, that logical problem solver. And I know if
Hmm.
I give myself a problem, even with software development, if I give myself that at night, I'll think on it and the answers will show up.
Yeah. That's
that.
funny how that happens.
Yes.
So
And that's when you have
aside
that
from,
debate. You're like, do I get out of bed now and work on this now? Or do I...
I was gonna go on that next. So one thing for most people is hesitation, right? Another thing is procrastination.
Yes.
And I think they're a little different, a little similar, but
Yep.
have you ever had that time where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I don't think this is working? Was there a time where you almost quit what you want to build? And what did you do to get you out of that?
Yeah, there was a time in my life where I wasn't a finisher. And
Mm.
so I would procrastinate. Like I would start strong, and it could have been a book, right? Start on a book and not hit the ending. Could have been on a piece of software I was working on developing and not finishing. Lots of different things. And so what I started learning to do is really make sure that I'm gonna be a doer. Really, that's what it is, right? So, and like I said, doer starts with D is discipline. So learning how to discipline myself to do whatever needs to be done. And my mentor Joseph says that discipline is doing a prescribed activity no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult. And one of the things I had to learn is that there's going to be things that are going to be difficult that I'm not going to like doing. It's not going to be fun. I still need to do it anyway, right? So I have to discipline myself to be willing to do that. And then going back to that one thing is what is the one thing I need to be focused on? So as an example, when I was setting my goals for 2025, the one thing that I focused on was getting on more stages. So I spoke on a
Mm.
lot of stages last year. I was in uh, so in the last 12 months or so, four different countries that I spoke in person, lots of virtual as well. But that was my main thing. My one thing was getting on different stages. The E, eliminate excuses and distractions. So I learned how to eliminate my excuses. Now, I'm currently transitioning from corporate to full-time entrepreneur, but last year I
Mm.
was still working my full-time job, and I had to learn okay, how to eliminate any excuse or distraction that kept me from getting work done there, being productive, but also being productive in my business. And so that's eliminating anything that's not necessary, right? So I went through doing that. Or responsibility. So I make sure I take responsibility for my attitude and my actions. The two things that I have complete control over. So I can control how I think. I can constantly program my mind for success, optimism, and all that type of stuff. My actions, I have complete control over what I do. So whether I make a phone call or whether I apply for a speaking opportunity or whether I don't, I'm in complete control over that. And so I do my best to discipline myself to take those right actions.
Very nice.
Wow. Awesome. For those people who might say, Michael, that's so much easier said than done. Because I know a lot of people want to be where you are, right? A lot of people want to be in stages, want to write a book, right?
Mhm.
But what's the anchor that helps you when things, you know, get discouraging? I know right now, I think it's you're more in the inspiration, right? Because you're
Yeah.
getting all this. But for those that don't get started or don't feel like what they're doing is making any fruits, what would you
Yeah.
tell them?
Yeah. So the first thing is a lot of times, especially on social media, all we hear about are the wins. But I
Yes.
like to let people know, right? Like I know I guarantee you for a fact, I receive more no's than yeses. So when it comes to speaking, when it comes to coaching clients, I get more no's than yeses, but I'm willing to get the no's. I'm willing to fail. And so that's what I'll tell you. You have to be at a point where you're willing to fail and to realize that failure is a part of success.
Yes.
As a software developer, right? When I'm writing code and testing code, it's gonna fail. Like my goal is to, okay, I got to find out all the different ways we can fail here, because if I figure out where it fails here and I fix it, then when it gets over here, it's not gonna fail, right? So you've got to go through that process. But if I just write code or do something assuming that I'm not gonna reach failure, it's like that's not reality in anything that we do. So that's really just the mindset change. Be willing to fail. Ryan Leake has a great book, Chasing Failure. I highly encourage people to absorb that if they're struggling with that. If you're struggling with no's, there's a book called Go for No, I think by Richard
Mm.
Fenton. A great book, just understanding, really just reframing your mind around hearing the word no.
Mhm. Two things
I
come to
love.
mind. Uh, the one is the old baseball analogy, right? So if you're batting 300, that's Hall of Fame level. That means that you hit 30%,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You miss 70% of the time.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we should kind of adjust our expectations of what success looks like to be more aligned with like what it actually looks like,
yeah.
right? You hit the hits, you get the hits that you get, and whatever you get, you got to make the most of it.
And
The
if you
other
don't
thing,
swing, you don't get any of them, right? There's no
that's
opportunity,
right, that's
right?
right. The other
So
thing is
true.
you mentioned Brian Tracy earlier. Brian Tracy always talked about how every time whenever he got a no when he was doing door to door,
Hmm.
he was like, yeah, at first it kind of discouraged him, but eventually he realized that every no was almost like a gambler's fallacy, right? It can't last forever. Like we're gonna get a yes
Yep,
eventually.
getting
Let's
closer.
one more
Yep,
no. Let's go. Get the next one.
exactly. And then you want to go faster, right? Like, okay, let me do it faster. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our great mentor, of course, John Maxwell, his book on Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, for most people, they don't reach their potential because they're so afraid of failing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
I see
myself,
that a lot. Right? We're all
what
Maxwell
that?
certified. So I see that a lot with a
Yeah,
lot of the Maxwell coaches is like they went from a successful corporate career, right? Making a six-figure income over here in corporate America. Now they're a solopreneur and they're so hesitant about putting themselves out there. What are my friends going to think if they see that I was an executive over here and now I'm a coach, right? What are they going to think? And that holds people back. Um,
yeah.
you got to get past that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there was a something else
Your
that I
book
thought of.
really is amazing. Yeah, your book and your message is amazing, Michael. So we're so
Thank
thankful,
you. Thank you.
really, that you do all this that you do. You're a servant leader. So go ahead, Zach. You got it.
There was just something else I was thinking of when you were asking the question, Evangeline. I was
Mhm.
hoping that Michael was going to say he was going to quote John Maxwell and just say, "If you want to do what I do, you got to do what I did."
Oh, yes, true. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
Yes, I've heard John say that plenty of times.
Yeah, because a lot of people want to be where others are, but they're not willing to do what they did to get there, right? Because it's
Yeah.
hard. It can be fearful, it can be isolating, all those things that you
Mhm.
have to deal with. That's why it's so important.
And a lot of
Also,
times it's boring, right? It's like those little bitty things, right? Okay. Like you have somebody shadowing you, you're like, they're like, okay, what, you're sending emails now? Yeah, I'm sending emails. You making phone calls? Yeah. Okay. It's like it's nothing exciting.
that's why it's so important that we're doing what gives us joy, right?
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's really what makes us, enthusiastic and effective in whatever we do, is that we love what we're doing, right?
Yes.
That's the most important thing. And we're operating in our giftedness and we're doing learning constantly so that we can keep improving. So, yeah.
That's important.
So we've kind of hit around this this question that I'm about to ask, on all sides of it, but not directly on it yet. So what do you think that most people misunderstand about the path that you've taken?
One, that it's easy. And I think a lot of people naturally assume that it's going to be easy. And I think a lot of people assume that they already know what it takes, right? Because there are a lot of people that I meet base their past success on this new entrepreneur life. And they're
Mm.
different. Like it's good that you have some past success, like that can help. However, there's a big difference between being a solopreneur versus being successful in corporate America or successful in sports or whatever it was, right? It's different because at the end of the day, you've got to be the one who motivates yourself and keeps yourself on discipline. But also, you got to do all the little itty bitty things. Unless you have assistance, you've got to do everything for your business. So I think that's one of the things that
Mhm.
really a big misconception that a lot of people have. They're like, okay, I'm just going to get certified. I've got John Maxwell's name or I've got Les Brown's name, and people are just going to come to my door and the money's going to come in, right? Like, no, you have to apply. You gotta ask. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I do is I'm constantly applying, knowing that I'm gonna get more no's, but I'm like, okay, if I rather I rather get 10 no's today versus getting 10 no's over the whole year because I dragged it out or whatever.
Yeah.
I heard somebody mentioned I'm working on getting 100 no's so that he'll take me closer. And he's disappointed when he got a yes because, oh, I'm down to 99 or
Yes.
something,
And that philosophy works too.
Yes, yes. I think it's very helpful, especially for those people that, didn't allow themselves to fail early on. I'm talking about myself. So,
Like I'm doing it right now with my with speaking. So I'm keeping track of it. And my goal is to get 100 no's. And
wow.
it's paid speaking opportunities, and it's paid speaking, free speaking opportunities, TED Talks, so they're all in that same category, but I'm constantly applying and keeping track of it because I know that even just at 100 no's that I will quickly hit my goals faster.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, very true. And you get to learn from those no's, right? That's the
Absolutely.
bonus.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that we learned from the that book by Michael Gerber, the E-Myth, right?
Hmm.
Is that the entrepreneur is generally a person who starts out as, just a technician, someone who has a fever dream. They know how to make widgets, and then they think, I can do this as a business. Problem is, you don't know anything about business.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I gotta pay taxes on those widgets. So yeah.
It's
Who's going to
not
buy
for
those widgets?
Mhm.
not for the weak, right?
Yeah. So we've got I think we're going to move into the rapid fire section here real
All
quick. Unless
right.
you got any other questions you want to ask, Evangeline?
No, we're good. We're good, Zach. Go
All right.
ahead.
So in this section, we just kind of ask a few questions. We're trying to get shorter answers, but of course, so far no one has given a shorter answer. It's just as long as everything
Without
else.
overthinking.
So, but we'll go ahead and start asking you some of these questions here. So, what's a book that has shaped how you think about leadership?
Developing a leader within you, the original version. John Maxwell.
Nice.
Nice. If there's a verse that have helped you in your life verse, what would it be?
And so, as a Christian, a biblical verse, James 1:22, be a doer of the word, right? So that's kind of where the doer comes
Wow,
from. So I'll go with that one.
Nice.
awesome.
You're giving two short answers now.
You're the winner so far.
Hey, trust me, I'm a speaker. I can stretch it out. One answer, 2 hours
We
long.
love it, Michael. We love it. It's so ready.
Mhm.
So, what's the best advice you've ever received?
From my grandfather, he said, Michael, it's not about the award. You have to make serving others part of who you are. That's something he told me. So I keep his he won the Thomas
Mm.
Jefferson Servant Leadership Award
Wow.
the year before he died. And I remember asking him about the award and all that type of stuff. And that's what he told me. He's, Michael, it's not about the award, it's about the impact. Serving others has to be a part of who you are. And so that's what I do. Serving others is a part of who I am. That's has opened up opportunities for me, but that's my DNA right there.
Yeah. Add value to others, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
That makes me wanna cry, Michael. And it's really, we see that in you every single day and the people that you touch. I hear a lot of, feedback, very good things, all good things, nothing but good things about you. So you really live it. So, what's one thing if we have to write your one liner on a billboard, what legacy do you want to live?
He was faithful and served and created impact.
Well done. Well done, Michael.
All right. So, I think that wraps up the bulk of the questions that we have. Is there anything that we didn't touch that you wanted to bring up? I know we talked about your book a little bit. But was there anything else that you wanted to bring up that we didn't get into?
No, I think you covered it all. I mean, his questions were great. And if anybody wants to know more about the book, obviously you can find it on Amazon, or you can go to doorswintheday.com and download a free chapter of the book and some bonuses as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll put all that stuff into the blurb on YouTube so that people
Okay,
can
perfect.
find you and all that stuff. All right. So, Evangeline, I'm going to ask you this question. What was your big takeaway from today?
I have so much. I'm actually writing notes.
All right.
I have so much, but really, I love the doer thing. That's very
That's right. Be a
comprehensive.
doer.
I would love to get one of those. I'll get your book also. I love that, and I coach people too, and this is one thing that I always talk about too. So I love your
Yep.
heart, Michael, for serving. Yeah.
Doers win the day.
We
There you go.
all need to do to be doers to win. It's really about, being sure of that one thing. Being disciplined is a big thing because for a lot of people that's the hardest. If it's easy, we all would have been healthy and wealthy and rich, right? So that's
Yeah.
the
It's
hard.
never a lack of knowledge, and for most people, right? Like we all know what to do.
Yes, yes. When I coach people, though, oh, people have told me that a long time ago. So it's really about, having that discipline, having knowing your why, right? What's your biggest why, Michael? That's my question that I forgot to ask.
Yeah, so for me, it's all about the impact, right? It's the legacy that I leave behind. And for me, probably one of the biggest rewards is my wife and I used to serve in the kids ministry at our church, and my three sons started helping us as well. And so now seeing them serve people and do different things without being asked, right? It's naturally who they are now through our example. So that's probably one of my biggest rewards, just for seeing that.
Nice.
That reminded me of another question. It's never done with Evangeline, Zach. So,
Go for it.
so we know that we cannot serve. You're all about serving and helping. You have a big heart. What do you do for yourself? What's one thing you do for yourself so that you don't get depleted?
So for me, it would be I watch either silly movies or silly TV shows just to unwind, like something where I know that I can look at. I don't have to give it too much thought. It may or may not be the best acting, but it puts a smile on my face. So I'll watch something goofy like that really late at night. I'm a night owl. So you'll find me at like 11 o'clock at night watching a superhero movie or show or something like that, right? Just something non-technical, non-logical, something that I can just relax and watch.
Going into the empty box.
Yeah.
Right? I think
That's
men
awesome.
need that. Women. Yeah. So thank you. Zach, what's your biggest takeaway?
Oh, I think my biggest takeaway is probably, let's see. I keep going back to the start thing. I really like that. That's a fantastic way to think about getting started, for lack of a better way to say it. But it really does kind of cement that idea, the concept in my brain. So I really appreciate that, and I'm definitely
Thank
going to
you.
get the book and check out all the other lessons that are in there.
Yeah, think you enjoy it.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you spending some time with us here today and answering the questions that we have. And I hope that everything goes well for you in 2026 as we're getting started here in the year. And appreciate the fact that you spent some of your precious heartbeats with us.
You're quite welcome. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We'll see more of you.
If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to like the video and drop a comment below. We read them, and we love hearing what stood out to you. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when new conversations are released. And please share this with someone who needs to hear it, a colleague, a friend, someone you're leading, or someone who's leading you. If you'd ever like to be a guest or a leader whose story deserves to be heard, please reach out. We're always looking for meaningful conversations.